Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for being available to join. I believe we'll just give people a few more minutes to hop on the call and then we'll get started.
I'm a private investigator. I grabbed every Keanu file in the Illuminati archives. We vetted him and we found nothing.
A month, forever. Life. Make the move and watch your savings stack up. Switch now at boothmobile.com. For 30 gigabytes, you may experience slower speeds. Pay $29 a month as long as you're
Now, finding that weapon is up to me and you.
Whoa, I'm just
Okay, it seems like we have a good amount of people in here, so I believe we could go ahead and get started. So we won't take up much of everyone's evening, but good evening. My name is Cordelia Troublefield. I am the project manager from Griffin and Strong for this Illinois Power Agency Racial Disparity and Availability Study. It's a pleasure to have everyone on this call. And I will turn it over to the rest of our team who's on this call to do introductions. So, Courtney.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining. It's a pleasure to have everyone here on the call. I know everyone's probably getting off of work, had a busy day, so thank you guys so much for joining. My name is Courtney Clark. I am the Deputy Project Manager on the IPA study. And we also have another GNS member on the team. I'll pass it over to Michelle Clark-Jenkins.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name's Michelle Clark-Jenkins. I'm the Director of Methodology and Research for Griffin and Strong.
Hey, Thank you all so much, again, for being available. I know that we do have a couple of the IPA team representatives on here, so I did want to also open up the floor for IPA to give some opening remarks. So, Tombi?
Me. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Tanvi Shah, and I am the Chief DEI Officer here at the Illinois Power Agency. We have a few of the staff members available on this call as well. And so on behalf of all of us, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of our partners and stakeholders and community members who could join the call today. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. As many of you may know, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act required that IPA commission and publish a racial disparity and availability study that examines whether disparities exist in Illinois' clean energy economy and how those might be affecting minority-owned businesses and minority workers in the sector. And the General Assembly wrote this requirement into law because they wanted equitable access. They knew that equitable access to clean energy opportunities is fundamental to the success of CEJA. And so to fully realize CEJA's vision, we needed clear evidence-based understanding of who's able to participate in the sector, where the barriers may still exist, and what solutions are needed to move us forward. And so tonight's informational meeting is really an important step in that process. And we're pleased to be working with the Griffith and Strong team. They are the consulting team that was selected to lead the study. And we want to thank them for hosting tonight's meeting. Their team will be walking us through the study scope and the process and the ways in which you can all participate. And so again, I want to thank you all for being here. Our work becomes stronger when stakeholders are engaged, and your insights and experiences and questions are really essential to us building a complete and accurate picture of Illinois' clean energy landscape. So we hope you'll stay connected throughout the study process and take advantage of the opportunities that Griffith and Strong will share to provide feedback and participate in the study. With that, I'll turn it over to the Griffith and Strong team to take us into the presentation.
Thank you so much, Tommy, for this great opening remark. I know that we have a couple of other representatives from our team as well as one of our sub-consultants on the call. So I do also want to thank our team for being available, but to be on here as well. But I will start sharing my screen and then I will turn it over to Courtney to start us off with the presentation.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today to talk about the study itself. This is very important work that we are doing with the IPA and that you will have the opportunity to participate in. And so we'll discuss some of that today. So for the agenda, we're going to be discussing a little bit about Griffin and Strong, the objective and purpose of the study, our methodology and our approach to doing the study, as well as how you can get involved. And then we'll be walking through the timeline of the study and then provide an opportunity at the end for anyone to ask any questions or make any commentary about the study. So about Griffin and Strong, we are a public policy and consulting firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we specialize in procurement research, training and supplier diversity, consulting, contract compliance, and program development. We are the most qualified team in the industry with 7 Juris Doctors. We have a PhD in economics, social psychology, and also a PhD in anthropology. You are in very good hands with the Griffin and Strong team. Our project executive, Rodney K. Strong, he has unmatched expertise and served as the director of the City of Atlanta's Department of Contract Compliance. He was also project manager on the first post-Croson disparity study, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the forthcoming slides, and as a principal architect of the City of Atlanta's Distinguished Equal Business Opportunity Contracting Program. And he also qualified as an expert witness in 2 different cases. Our senior economist, Dr. Gregory Price, on the project has 25 years of experience in economic analysis of the discrepancies of employment, private sector contracting, and also lending and public contracting. He was actually recently named one of the top 40 Black economists in the last 40 years. So the objective and purpose of the study. For those who may not be familiar with what a disparity study is, it is an objective research tool which is used to determine if disparities exist in an agency's procurement activities within certain race, ethnic, and gender groups across various industry categories. It then determines whether those disparities are statistically significant and whether they are likely caused by race and gender status of the firm owners. Disparity studies themselves utilize anecdotal evidence and a review of the agency's policies, practices, and procedures, as well as best practices to make those recommendations. Recommendations from the study must be narrowly tailored to fit the findings of the study, and that will also be discussed in the forthcoming slides. But for the IPA racial disparity and availability study itself, the objective for this study in particular is to evaluate whether the presence of discrimination exists in Illinois' clean energy economy for minority and women-owned businesses in the workforce.
Purpose of the study.
To discuss a little bit about the purpose of the study in regards to the legal approach, there are two primary cases that really govern and underpin the methodology for the work that we do regarding contracting and procurement. Those are the City of Richmond versus J.A. Croson, Adirondack Constructions versus Pena, and the Croson case was in 1989, and the Adirondack case followed in 1995. So these cases themselves establish strict scrutiny to race-based programs, and it established intermediate scrutiny for gender-based programs. Croson itself required a factual predicate as a component of any race-based programs to clearly show evidence of past discrimination to support any remedial efforts. So if there are remedial efforts, whether those are policies or programs that come from the factual predicate, it must also narrowly tailor those remedies to any affected groups so that you avoid any over or under inclusion. And the Adirondack case extended this to the DBE program with the federal government, which is for the disadvantaged business enterprises. Also, in our legal approach, we examine cases from the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, which is where the Illinois is situated in. So this includes the Builder Association of Chicago v. County of Cook, Dunnett Bay Construction County versus Boardman, Midwest Fence Corp versus US DOT, Department of Transportation, the Milwaukee County Pavers Association versus Fielder, and the Northern Contracting Inc. versus Illinois Department of Transportation. So in our legal analysis, we review all of these cases to kind of really understand the legal background for this work in the space. Our methodology and technical approach. So throughout our study process, we have several components that we work through. And for this study in particular, we will be having 11 different components to our study, which kind of outlines our approach to really diving deep into these different areas of our study. The first component is the legal review and analysis. The policy review follows that. And we also begin to collect and clean the data. We then do different data analyses, the relevant market analysis,
He's trying to park.
our utilization analysis, the availability analysis, as well as the disparity analysis. We also utilize a regression-based analysis of private and public sector outcomes, and we will be looking at workforce and program evaluation and anecdotal evidence collection and analysis. And all of these components come together in our final report that will have recommendations for next steps.
Courtney, before we continue, I would just like to let those individuals who are unmuted and maybe having side conversations, if you could please just take the time to mute yourself. Thank you.
So as I mentioned on the previous slide, as part of our final report itself, we conduct a full policy review, which is the next step that comes from our legal analysis. The policy review itself consists of a thorough review of the agency's programs, but specifically for the IPA study, we will be looking at the Illinois Shines, the Illinois Solar for All, competitive procurements, and DCEO workforce programs. Our policy team will be conducting policy interviews with the relevant staff at the IPA and other organizations, as well as thoroughly evaluating policy documents and any manuals that the IPA has regarding these programs. But the primary questions that our team seeks to answer and to understand in our policy review is, are those policies understood by staff? Is there a discrepancy in the policy that is written and the policy that is implemented? And then do any policies as they're written present a barrier for MBE and WBE firms and workers to access and participate in the clean energy programs? And then lastly, what policies can be modified to really promote more inclusion?
Okay, so in terms of our quantitative analyses that we will be doing, as Courtney stated, there are different phases within this approach that we would be taking. First off, after we get a hold of all of the relevant data from IPA pertaining to those 3 different programs that Courtney just listed, as well as from the DCEO agency, we we'll conduct a relevant market analysis, which is just basically measuring where the programs that underneath IPA, where they have marketed at least 75% of its services for each industry category. So really just looking at the different projects in which have been administered underneath those programs and looking at where those dollars have been spent. And this will result in determining the different relative geographic market areas for each industry category. And then pertaining to those industry categories that we will be disaggregating the data, they would fall underneath the following 4 sectors, which are construction, architecture, and engineering, other services, and goods. So in terms of our utilization analysis, as I just talked about, we're looking at where the money was spent in terms of those projects that were administered under those programs. Now we want to look at the data measuring for the vendors who have performed on the contracts underneath IPA's programs. And then we disaggregate the dollars or spend or what have you underneath the contracts by year, industry category, and race, gender, ethnic status. We will also perform an availability analysis, so really looking at those available firms within the clean energy sector that would be willing and able to perform on any projects underneath the 3 IPA programs. And how we will be doing this is through a custom census approach by surveying Hoover's data to determine the number of available firms in the relevant market. So disparity analysis is, in the simplest terms, it's really just us comparing availability to utilization and comparing both to create this disparity index for each race, gender, and ethnicity group and disaggregated by the different 4 procurement categories that I listed. We also will be doing a statistical significance test, really just measuring after a certain amount, really looking at if each category if they have a disparity that is really statistically significant. So that is what we would be looking for. We also will be doing a regression analysis to determine if disparities can be explained by factors other than race, ethnicity, and gender. So for example, education status or age or experience really is just about us really seeing if there are any disparities that hinder firms from accessing or participating underneath those 3 IPA programs. So as I just stated about the regression analysis, we do a regression-based analysis of private and public sector outcomes. We determine whether race, ethnicity, or gender status has affected the utilization of firms owned by members of such groups in the public and private sectors. So not at this point, not just looking at the public sector as a whole, but also looking at how firms, how they maneuver within the clean energy sector and throughout the private sector. And this includes looking at employment and self-employment disparities and also credit markets. In terms of the workforce and program evaluation analysis, this is really where we would be looking at the DCEO data. So an analysis of energy, workforce equity, portal data, and the DCEO workforce programs. Also reviewing the minimum equity standard compliance reports, and a review of any of the policies underneath DCEO workforce programs. And then we will also be hoping to launch a provider survey. So underneath the survey, we will conduct with service providers to evaluate the efforts of workforce readiness programs, apprenticeships, and training programs offered under the DCEO's workforce programs. Surveys will also seek information on the existence of barriers in achieving MES objectives. So in terms of the community engagement and anecdotal evidence, which is why you all are here, we do have a part of our studies in which we do analyze data that we gather from minority women-owned businesses, businesses as a whole, in general, and also from workers as well as a part of the workforce program evaluation. So we start off with the informational meeting, which is what you all are here for. And this is just to, again, inform you all of the study, our approach, and then we would open up the floor for questions. And then at the end, if anyone would like to go ahead and start to give us any of their anecdotes or experiences regarding trying to access or participate in any of the projects administered underneath IPA's clean energy programs, and we do open up the floor for that. But essentially, that's what these other sectors in our approach do focus on. It just focuses on how business owners and workers, how they have been able to access the clean energy economy as it pertains to any projects that have been administered by IPA's programs, Illinois Shines, Illinois Solar for All, and competitive procurements. So we also will be conducting 50 anecdotal interviews. They will be randomized, meaning randomized in our process. Uh, we would also be conducting 2 focus groups, which are kind of like anecdotal interviews, but they're more so in a group setting, really just trying to gain more information from everyone's experiences regarding working in the programs or attempting to work under the programs. We also will be reaching out to business, civic, and trade organizations to interview those organizations who are really hands-on within the clean energy economy and get their perspectives of how they feel about how the programs are being administered and how businesses and workers are able to access and participate under those projects administered by the programs. We will also be launching a survey of business owners, which is really to gather more information and being able to track and quantify those responses that we get from business owners. And then we will be launching 2 public hearings, which will be a public forum setting to kind of give people the platform to really speak about their experiences. And then if no one feels comfortable in terms of being able to participate in any of these approaches that I just discussed, we do have a designated email in which you can submit any comments. And then we do have a study website where you will be able to submit any comments. And then we will have, so we have our social media platforms as well in which you can engage in. So for our findings and recommendations, after each analysis has been completed, we take the time to summarize all of the key points from each report. We then review the efficacy of race and gender neutral remedies and how to identify those remedies based on the findings that we have observed over time. And then we begin our recommendations approach, which we narrowly tailor the recommendations in terms of whether if it's to enhance the effectiveness of IPA's clean energy programs and also DCEO's workforce programs. Those recommendations will be based upon that in order to enhance the effectiveness of these programs. So more businesses and workers are able to access projects underneath these programs and be able to participate in them. So how you all can be involved. So first off, it is to be very vocal about your experiences. Really, I want to make sure that I emphasize that the study is being conducted so the clean energy economy can be more equitable and more efficient for business owners and workers to be able to participate in. It's being conducted so the programs, IPA's programs, can be much more effective for all businesses to be able to participate under. So we do ask that you are very vocal because our recommendations are going to mirror what we hear from you all and what we gather from the quantitative data. We will have a couple of surveys, as I did list about the survey business owners. We will have a provider survey launched through the workforce analysis program. So we are asking whenever you get those links to the survey, please fill them out. If you are contacted for an interview or if you would like to participate in a focus group session, if you're contacted to be included in a focus group session, we are asking to please participate and then also attend the public hearing. We also ask for you to keep up with the study. As I mentioned, we do have a designated study email and a designated study website, and that is www.ipastudy.com and ipastudy@gspclaw.com. We will also drop that inside of the chat box for everyone to be able to um, go to and reference. So in terms of our project timeline, as me and Courtney both talked about, there are many different layers to the study. So the study will be happening over about a year. We did get started during the late summer. We did start our initiation phase. We created our work plan and finalized the schedule, and then we began to conduct data assessment meetings. We had a kickoff meeting with IPA, and then we started planning for data collection, and then we also conducted our case law review. So right now, during the fall, we are conducting the informational meeting right now, and then we have launched our website. It is now live. We have completed all of our data assessment meetings, which we just wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. And now we're in this process of really starting to plan and begin our data collection. We have started our policy analysis, and then we will be preparing to start our anecdotal collection, which would be focused on interviewing organizations and also preparing for anecdotal interviews. Then in the winter, we hope to wrap things up with our policy review. We hope to launch our vendor questionnaire to collect any remaining data pertaining to the projects that have been completed underneath IPA's 3 programs. We hope to complete data collection and prepare for the data analyses. And then we also hope to begin our anecdotal interviews, conduct our public hearings, which we are projecting to happen around late January. And then we'll start our other analysis. And then in the spring and summer, we'll complete our anecdotal interviews. We'll have our focus group session. We'll complete all of the other analyses. And then by next fall, so around this time or around October of next year, we would have finished all of our analyses, compiled everything into our report with our recommendations, and then send it over to IPA for review. And then we'll start our presentations and then finalizing the report. I know that's a mouthful, but all in all, this is a very long and rigorous process. So we will be taking up until hopefully October to complete the study. So how you can connect with us regarding Griffin and Strong, if you're interested in more of the work that we have done, we do have a Facebook, we have a LinkedIn, and we do have a website. And then again, there's the study email and the study website for you all to be able to keep up with the study and contact us in terms of if you have any questions or if you would like to submit any comment. Me and Courtney, since we are the project managers, we do monitor that email constantly. So please, if you have any comments, please make sure that you do use our study email. Okay, and now I will open up the floor for any questions that anyone may have. And thank you all again.
Cordelia, there's a question in the chat. Heather Herndon Wright asks, what determines statistical significance for this application?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Michelle, I will give that to you.
Yeah, statistical significance. So we do a comparison between the firms who are being utilized in these programs and then the firms who are out there who could be utilized. So when you compare the two, if there is a gap, you're going to see where there's overutilization or there's underutilization. So if you can picture that parity, which is that utilization of firms kind of equals the availability of firms, you're at parity. And if you can imagine parity being 100, then anything less than 80 is considered statistically significant. And that's just a simple statistical significance test, which is anything kind of less than 80 under. So you've got kind of this 20-point disparity grace period before it becomes statistically significant.
Thank you so much, Heather, for that question. Do we have any other questions from anyone else on the call?
Yeah, a real quick question on, I don't know if you're kind of looking for some comments on, I guess, just kind of access to programs and that, if you're looking for that now or later, but, yeah, I mean, I think we probably do need to point out the recent legislation that was passed to basically limit merit contractors, merit shop contractors to what they can build is going to limit opportunities for people, right? So basically, the merit shop contractors that are employing people that are going through solar training programs, that type of stuff. We basically had the jobs available to us nearly cut in half based off the recent legislation that was passed for solar.
Okay. So were you a participant workforce or as a business?
We're a business who recruits from CEJA funded,
Okay.
solar training programs.
Yeah, we do. We're happy to take, if you all have some comments like that, we're happy to take those. You don't have to wait until another time to do that.
I did see another question inside of the chat from Ms. Kenya Brooks Jones. Will this disparity study also look at technology and workforce vendors, not just construction and traditional professional services?
Yes, we've split this into essentially 5 categories. So we look at construction-related professional services, other professional services, other services, and goods. So we are looking at all industries. But again, it's as it's related to clean energy and these programs.
Excuse me, I have a question. My question is this. I just recently entered the clean energy field through a ComEd program. And my question is, does this study, will it be actually dealing with a lot of the problems that contractors, I'm an electrical contractor, that contractors face with actually getting the actual information about these different programs so that they can actually, sell this to their customers? Because there seems to be a big gap in between coming in and actually being able to use it afterwards.
Yeah, so that's based on what you tell us. We have an anecdotal portion, which tonight is kind of the beginning of that, which is where we are soliciting uh, interested stakeholders to tell us about their experiences and where they have concerns about the programs, where there are barriers, where there are things that work well. We're soliciting that. So the study does report on those things. We also will be putting out a survey. We'll be doing some open hearings. We'll be doing some focus groups and some selected interviews. But and also, I think Cordelia and Courtney will make available a dedicated website as well as a dedicated email address where you can email us your comments. But yeah, we want to hear all of that because that's important to the efficiency as well as the equitable operation of these programs.
Okay, thank you.
And I will also like to say that if you are an organizational leader, or if you're a business owner or a worker underneath the clean energy sector working with clean energy services, you can shoot me and Courtney a message directly to let us know that you would like to participate, and we will make sure that we will get in contact with you to either set up an interview or anything of that nature. Okay, there is another.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
yeah, there's a question. How do you ensure the regression analysis separates true race and gender-based disparities from broader industry trends like contractor shortages or evolving renewable energy market dynamics? That's a mouthful. But as you know, when we do a regression, we're using like firms. So we're taking firms, we're controlling, in essence, for their differences. So we're taking like firms and we're comparing them and saying if the control group is non-minority male-owned firms compared to all of the study groups, are they likely, more likely, less likely, or equally likely to have certain characteristics or to have certain opportunities or to be a certain type of firm? So we're comparing them, and part of what a regression does is really kind of equalize or control for race and gender neutral factors. So, of course, you can't control for 1,000 different factors. There are lots of factors, but we try to control for kind of standard race and gender neutral factors that could make a difference between firms. And so the idea is to kind of equalize all the differences and compare like firms to like firms. And that should, in theory anyway, that should provide a true analysis of whether race is likely the cause of the disparity, or at least that race and gender neutral factors are likely not the cause of the disparity.
Okay, it looks like we have another question. Based on similar clean energy disparity studies nationally, what policy barriers most consistently limit MBE and WBE firms from participating in solar workforce and clean energy procurement programs, and which early interventions have proven most effective in closing those gaps?
So I would not venture at this point to tell you what are most likely, again, that's what we're gathering. That's what this study does, which is to gather that information. Um, I can tell you with disparity studies in general that um, size sometimes is an issue. And the reason I volunteer that is because, there are times when that's come up in a number of these discussions, even with other um, of the market studies that have been done by other um, utilities in Northern Illinois, is some of the issues have to do with size. And of course, it has to do with we hear a lot about communication, but we have no idea what the issues specifically are for IPA. Um, and we'll address that as we get information from you, as we look at their specific policies. So a lot of our recommendations come really from three areas. One is our um, experience doing these studies all around the country. Two is what we hear from the business community. And three is by doing a deep dive into the policies and looking at the policies on their face.
Okay, it looks like we have another question. Will you share any interim findings with stakeholders so we can validate that the themes you're hearing match our lived experience?
So it kind of matches, it kind of goes the other way around. We listen to all your lived experiences and then we report them as we hear them. So we've already taken that by, we're not making up the lived experiences. We're getting those initially from you before that's part of our findings, is what you as the business community tell us. And so then we deliver that to IPA.
I would also like to add, Michelle, that we, as a part of our contract and project, we are also to do some public presentations across Illinois. So there would be some public presentations in which the public can hear about our findings and recommendations of the study. Okay, do we have any other questions? We do have this blocked off for an hour, so our team will make sure that we're staying in here to make sure that we're answering all questions and hearing anyone's experiences if anyone would like to speak on that. But just want to make sure that I give everyone the floor to ask your questions. This is a very important time for us to make sure that we're really answering your questions as it pertains to the study. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate the information.
Okay, well, we have people popping off. What is your sharing ask for for this session? Mr. Perez, are you asking if we would be sharing this recording with everyone?
I know. I was asking, like, you like to share or disclose? I'm a energy transition navigation supervisor with both a CISA hub and an energy transition navigation team. And I've spent like this week talking, disclosing information through partnerships. So I was wondering if you were looking for like experiences with inclusion or things like that. I've been on the project for 90 days, and I've seen lots of opportunities for that. When I started the project with my previous history, I was able to introduce our localized project into more expansive reach through Cook County. So being very intentional with involving other other groups that are not traditionally seen on the poster boards for clean energy. Uh, Flyers and things like that. Some that have been provided by funders, and others that have potential disabilities that might prevent them to climb wind turbines, for example. So I've seen a lot of inclusivity, a lot of conversations about that, and I'd be happy to add anything else if there's an opportunity to write something or to share in a study.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Mr. Perez. Yeah, if you want to have like a one-on-one conversation, me and Courtney were definitely available for that. We also have posted the study email inside of the chat, ipastudy@gsbclaw.com. So you're also more than welcome to shoot any of your concerns, any feedback that you have, or any experiences that you have working inside of the clean energy economy. You're more than welcome to utilize those different methods to um, share your experiences. And yes, exactly what you said when you asked about what information are we looking to what information are we seeking to gather. You're absolutely right. We are wanting to know your experiences, being able to participate and access the clean energy economy as a business owner and or as a worker.
Absolutely. I mean, the only analysis I have right now, like short term, is as I'm learning my role in navigation, is having accessibility for clean energy employment for our workforce hub graduates. We are having workforce hub graduates coming out of our systems, but our system is set up to have navigation services and then a learning environment, which are either hubs or pre-apprenticeship programs, with an expectation of having some kind of connection. So surveying like what the jobs are for entry level for a person that experiences the positive outcomes of our program, something I'm trying to decipher myself. And if anybody has employment opportunities, I know our entire system would be interested in working with you. Thank you.
So we have a couple of other questions. We have one question stating who is funding the study. And then we have another question. In what ways can my catering and farm to table business contribute to reducing clean energy disparities in communities that lack equitable access?
So, I can't answer that question, but that's a question you could answer for us. Again, we're looking for input from the community. If there's an area that you think has not been covered, that should be covered, um, even in some of what might be considered generic areas, I think those are things that you can make a case for to us. But again, I think you have to think about the, particularly the focus on the four programs, the three uh, um, business programs, and then the one workforce training program that we're focused on. Who is funding the study? I don't know that we can comment on who's funding it, but we were hired by IPA.
I can jump in here. Yes, the IPA is funding the study as we are required by law to conduct it.
Okay, so we do have about 10 minutes left within the hour. So, oh, we have another question. Um, in my experience with Solar for All, there has been a significant difference in the resources available in various regions of the state. How much will the study look into the experience across many regions of the state?
That's a good question. At this point, we weren't disaggregating our data by areas of the state, but that's a conversation we can have about whether that, if that is an issue, that there seems to be some sort of an imbalance across the state. I mean, that's something we can look at, particularly again, if those are things you tell us about along the way. We can always look at that to see if that's an issue. But our general analysis is program wide and not location based.
Um, Another question, someone posed, how does this help me in my business? Am I able to access prospective employees or capital?
So what you're talking about is the programs themselves. So we don't administer the programs themselves. And so if, again, that's kind of your business perspective, if your business perspective is that you're in the clean energy sector and you need access to workforce, and maybe the DECO program isn't accessible to you, to me, that's a comment that you would want to make that speaks to that.
Okay, do we have any further questions? Oh, one more. Will the policy review process look not only at current policies that can be improved, but also new policies that can be implemented or ways in which private markets can be better included to resolve any potential barriers?
So I'll take that in two parts. The first one is current policies that can, yeah, so the idea of the policy review is we are making recommendations at the end of this study. And the recommendations really are about policy improvements. And so our position is we can't make recommendations about policy improvements if we don't have a deep dive into what the current policies are. So the whole point of us looking at the policies, current policies, is so that we can make new ones if necessary. The second part of it is ways in which private markets can be better included. That's kind of a tricky one because some of that strays way outside of the programs because we know that there's clean energy business outside of IPA's program, but we have a limited access to data. So I don't know whether there's anything that will come in either because you tell us about it or because as we look at IPA's data on these programs that there is anything that we can state about the private markets. But again, our data sources are limited. Clearly there are private markets outside of these programs, but we don't have access to that data.
We have,
No, we're looking, again, we're looking at 4 programs. The, the 3 procurement programs, and then the 1 workforce program inside of IPA.
Actually, Michelle, I can jump in here.
Okay.
The CJ incubator is hub is or sorry, the CJ incubator programs are a part of the CEO's workforce and contractor programs, so they will also be assessed. Okay.
okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions? These are all really good questions that everyone is asking. So wanted to make sure that we cover everyone in the call, that making sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask their questions in this time. Okay, another question. How soon will surveys be released? So yeah, we are in the process of creating the surveys internally with within the Griffin and Strong team. Then we will be sending those the survey content over to IPA for review. And then once we have that put together, it'll take us about a couple of weeks to put it together. And then it'll be released for about a month. We are hoping to release it around sometime in January before our public hearings. And then it'll be up for about a month or so after that. Will the slide deck be shared out after the call? Sure. If you would like the presentation slide deck, PowerPoint, Michelle, we can give out the PowerPoint. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll be posted on the website.
Yeah, the recording of this call will be posted on the website. All right, are there any further questions? Will the study differentiate between Illinois-based contractors and workers and the many out-of-state contractors and workers that work on solar projects?
I may need Tanvi to jump in here because again, we're just getting started. So it depends on whether the DECO workforce programs permit out-of-state participation. Tanvi, you'll have to answer that question.
I think the study will focus on workers or work that is being conducted in Illinois. And so if they are out-of-state workers that work on projects in Illinois, then that will be part of the assessment.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes left inside of the call. Again, if you have a question or if you are still thinking about all of the information that we just went through, the slides, we know it was a lot of information to digest right now. So if there are any questions that you have after the call, after you thought everything through and reflected on the information that has been presented, please feel free to use our designated study email. Again, Courtney, could you drop it back in the chat at the end? Um, and then check out the study website to make sure that you're keeping up with the study's progress, as well as any other questions regarding if you're looking for a more in-depth insight into each approach. Please also check out our study website. I do see one more question. Is there a way to address issues after? Michelle, did you want to take that one?
If there are ways to address, sorry.
Is there a way to address issues after? Can I get you to clarify that question? Are you meaning after the study has been completed?
Or you mean after this meeting? Because after this meeting, there will be some public engagements, some public community meetings that you'll be able to attend. There'll be a couple of those. And so there will be an opportunity for you to talk about any additional concerns or input that you want to make as we get started. This is really an informational meeting where we are really kind of focused on giving out information, but over the next months, we'll be reaching out again, particularly those of you who came to this meeting, to ask you to again come and participate by telling us about your experiences. Also, there'll be a survey, so that survey a little more truncated in terms of the answers, but again, you can always email us with things that you want to tell us.
All right, sounds good. Thank you everyone for being a part of this call. It looks like we have now hit our hour mark. Again, please feel free to reach out to me and Courtney throughout this process if you would like to participate in the study, if you have any comments that you want to share. Me and Courtney, we have our emails open, as well as the study email. So yeah, thank you all for being a part of this call. And please feel free to check out the website as a recording would be available by either the end of this week or next week. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.